No? Did you remember to get dog food?
Not yet!
What?
Hey, pack your favorite toys.
Go.
You gotta go.
Go, bud, pack.
Hey, whatever toys you want to bring. You have everything you need?
I need to go pack.
Kids, there's no time. Go ahead and pack your own bag. Where's your dad? Where's your dad? Do y'all know where your dad is? And we're gonna be in the hotel room for a minute, okay?
Okay.
Get your favorite toys.
No, that I need.
Oh man, Dan, we have a bunch of bananas. We need to throw them out. Yes, we always eat stuff with soy bananas. There's any bugs that we leave in here.
Do you have any clean jammies?
Yes, go ahead and check your drawer. Did we forget anything?
No, we brought all of the things.
The kids.
All right, good morning, guys. How are you doing? Did everyone have a good Thanksgiving? Eat a lot of food? Play a lot of games? Watch football? Yeah? We had a great Thanksgiving in my house. We played this dice game that I will say I dominated. Just gotta let you know, I'm really good at dice. But so if you don't know me, my name is Whitney, and I am the youth director here at Shoreline. And I get to spend every Wednesday night with our 7th through 12th graders who some of them are from this house and some are just from the community. Their friends invited them, so they come check it out. And one of our goals in Tribe, that's what we call our student ministry, is to show them how to be a part of a church community when they reach the big world of adulting, which I'm pretty sure only millennials say. But it is so much fun. And I got to say, being with these students is probably one of my greatest joys in life. I didn't know that was how I was going to feel until I stepped into it. And I love it so much. I love them so much. Being able to encourage them and point them to Jesus and just journey alongside them is seriously a blessing in my life. And I hope I'm a little bit of a blessing in theirs. But since I get to be here today, I'm just going to drop a little bit of a shameless plug that if you are a student between 7th and 12th grade, or you have a student between 7th and 12th grade, we would love to have you. Wednesdays, 6 to 8 p.m., you won't want to miss it. We just wrapped up a Friendsgiving this past Thursday, and we have a Christmas party planned. So I encourage you to come check it out. But not only am I the youth director here, I'm also a mom of 4. So do you want to put up a picture of my beautiful family, just so you can see? All right, so that's my husband, Bradley. I didn't tell the last service. I just sounded like I had all these kids myself. We've been together for 18 years, and our oldest is Gavin, which he's actually behind the camera right now. Hi, Gavin. He is usually up here playing keys, though, worshiping his heart out, and he's just an absolute joy. And then we have Guinevere, who is up there in the tree, and she is 13 going on 30. And if you have a teenage daughter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know, I love you, girl. She's sitting right there. But you typically find her in the cafe, or she also leads our tribe worship band with her brother, Gavin. Next, we have Gatlan, who is probably helping Steven somewhere. I don't know where he is, but he is so much fun. Did I tell you he's 12? I think I did. And if I didn't, I'll do this math for you. Gwenny was 3 months old when we found out that we were pregnant. Shock of our life. Greatest gift that God could have ever given me. It was just definitely a big surprise gift. And last but not least is my curly-haired, handsome Mr. Gunner. And he is 10. I don't see him, so hopefully he's not in the attic shooting a bunch of Nerf bullets around for other people to clean up. He definitely has a little bit of a mischievous bent. I think it might be like the youngest child thing. But I just want to tell you this story. So one time, he was probably 4 or 5, and I'm about to do the dishes, and the backyard's right there, like through the sunroom. So he was going to go play outside. He comes inside and he's just covered head to toe in fire pit. And he looked at me and he's like, I accidentally got a little bit of charcoal on my hands. Check this out. What did you do?
I put charcoal on my hand.
I thought you said it was an accident.
It was an accident.
You were filthy. Yeah, definitely not our finest hour. But the beauty of growing up is that we can look back at these moments and laugh, which just watching this video as I was preparing, I was cracking up. And but I also think I called Bradley to laugh because sometimes you're just like, what else do you do but laugh at these ridiculous moments? How on earth could you get charcoal up and down your hands, your feet, your face, and say that it was an accident? It's beyond me. But so while I do not have the wisdom of a grandfather like Pastors Eric and Dan, I have been in the thick of parenting for quite a while now. 17 years, if we want to do math. But today we are wrapping up our family vacation series. And honestly, this has really blessed me in a lot of ways. I'm always looking to learn and grow as a parent and just as a person. So we are going to continue on with that and by asking the question, what does love require? So the world that we're raising children in nowadays is definitely different than it was when I was growing up. And I'm sure you probably feel the same, right? I was born in the late 80s, raised in the 90s, and this is a time where we only had Saturday morning cartoons. We ate all things processed and fast, and we played outside until the street lights come on. Well, raising kids today, they have cartoons on demand, literally at their fingertips, whatever platform they want, with basically anything that has a screen. I would have only dreamed to be able to watch my favorite show while being on a long road trip. And speaking of, I did take a long road trip with my kids. We went from here to Oregon, and then we drove back again, and it takes 4 days there and 4 days back. And they were each had their own device. They were connected to my hotspot, and they literally didn't fight the entire time. I was shocked, but I'm convinced it's because they got to watch Netflix for 4 days straight without me saying anything. And while I drove, listen to books on tape, very, very helpful. But now the education on how bad processed food for us is at our fingertips. We know that fast food for us all the time is probably not the best choice. And if you don't know that, I implore you to take a deep dive and do a little bit of research because it's shocking how much chemicals and poison, I'm going to call it poison, they put in food that other countries don't allow them to put in theirs. It's kind of mind-blowing, but I won't even fully get on the soapbox about that. If you have any questions, let me know. Playing outside in the front yard, there are creeps and weirdos out there. We cannot just let our kids roam free. Or even if we did want to let them roam free, our neighbor, Nosy Nancy over there, might call CPS on us and report us for child neglect or endangerment. And as I was writing that down, I was thinking, I'm like, I did actually read that, right? So I went and I did, Googled it. There are a lot of cases, like news articles, blogs about people that report other people's kids for playing outside and call it neglect. It's kind of shocking. But all this to say, we're in a time where raising up the next generation can feel a little daunting. It comes with its own unique set of challenges. And I'm sure there were challenges when Pastors Eric and Dan raised their kids, right? It was very unique to their time. But today, we're raising this next generation. And like I said, it can feel a little daunting. And we don't even know where to start. So for you in your parenting world, or maybe you're an aunt or an uncle, or you're a grandparent, or you're a friend of somebody who has kids, how do you know where to start? Right? Typically, we're at church, I'll say, well, go to the Bible. But like Pastor Eric said, there's no real family for us to look at in the Bible, right? We have Cain, who killed his brother Abel. Then we have Jacob, who stole Esau's birthright, and then they didn't talk for decades. And then we have Joseph. He boasted to his brothers, and so they sold him into slavery. You have parents that play favoritism, infidelity in marriages, multiple children from multiple different wives, and not everybody gets along. right? You get the picture. So without a guide, what we typically tend to do is we will fall back on what we know. And oftentimes we will parent in line with our personal values. So our values have a big influence on the way that we act and the way that we parent our kids. And our values, they have a significant impact on the way that we interact with our children. So what are the main principles that you stress in your household, or maybe just interacting with the next generation? What do you value above everything else? Maybe for you, it's obedience. It's biblical, right? It's in the Old Testament as well as the New that children should obey their parents. But what happens when they don't? Children are children after all, and they've got to be taught. And I don't know about you, but I have lost my cool a time or two when asking my children to do something for what feels like the 100th time. And then I can feel my heart rate start to rise, and I've exploded into yelling. Like, you can just ask them. They will attest to it. Right, Gwenny? I know, I'm sorry. Maybe for you, it's respect. You expect your children to be respectful all of the time, no matter their mood and no matter yours. You expect them to listen when you're talking, to value your wishes, to be grateful when you sacrifice something or give them something. Respect is all about placing value on someone or something. You want to be valued by your children and your family. And because of that, you expect them to show you respect. Or what about achievement? If this is a value of yours, you are right in line with about half of the country. We are a very achievement-driven society. So if that's the case, you value success. You value good grades, winning at sports, hitting goals, setting goals, winning awards, coming up with an idea for a business. The list could go on and on depending on what you deem as a success in your book. You just want to make sure that your family is working towards something and not sitting idly by. What about athleticism? Right? You love sports, whether it's playing sports, watching sports, or coaching them. The idea of a lazy, rainy Saturday afternoon to you kind of sounds like torture, and you'd much rather be out in the field, kicking a ball around with your family, getting a little muddy. Maybe you enroll your kids in every sport that you possibly can, and you have them back to back. You're enrolled in one. Once that one's done, there's another one, and then another one's just beginning. So knowing our values as parents is important. Knowing our values can help us to identify when something in our life isn't in line and it doesn't align with the way that we want to live. That's a good thing, right? But sometimes values can get in the way of love. And we can react based on what we value and not respond out of love. So a question to ask yourself is, are my values helping or hindering the goal of love? Jesus said the new commandment was to love others the way that he loves us. He didn't say, make sure to obey your elders, respect others first, go for the goal, make sure that you're fit. He said the new commandment was to love others as he has loved you. So what is love defined as? We're going to read what the dictionary says about what love is, right? Super practical. So love is defined as a strong feeling of affection and concern toward another person, as that arising from kinship or close friendship. So your friends or your family. It's a strong feeling of affection and concern for another person accompanied by sexual attraction. It is a feeling of devotion or adoration towards God or a God. Well, the Apostle Paul wrote in the New Testament a different definition of love. And he defines all of it by way of choice rather than feeling. So we're going to look at 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. And this says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Oh, anyone else feeling a little convicted here? Love is. It doesn't say love feels. Love is a choice. It's a choice in the way that we act. It's a choice in the way that we behave. The kind of love that Paul is talking about goes against our personal wants and almost our human tendencies. This kind of love is sacrificial, and it cares nothing for your values. This is an others first kind of love, the kind of love Jesus showed us. So Pastor Eric already touched on patience a couple weeks ago, so we are going to skip forward and we're going to break down what love requires. So buckle up, okay? All right. Love is kind. Not kind when someone else is kind to me first. Love chooses kindness in spite of how our children are behaving. When they're rolling their eyes because they know better than us. When they're throwing a temper tantrum in the back of the car because, honestly, who knows why? Love requires us to be kind in those moments. Love just is kind. Love is not jealous. It doesn't get angry or upset at what someone else has. It doesn't get jealous that your kids have a better upbringing than you had. It doesn't get jealous over the time that your children spend with the other parent. Love does not boast. It doesn't puff itself up. It doesn't brag about all that they've done or all that they've accomplished. It's not self-admiring. I've seen children come to their parents and they want to just show them what they've done. Or maybe it's something that they've learned, only for the parent to respond with, "Oh, cool. When I was your age," and continue on talking about themselves. Each time I've witnessed this, I see the child kind of shrink back into themselves, and they have that look of like dejection on their face. Love for others means taking a back seat. Love is not prideful. Your pride is not the most important thing, I'm sorry to tell you. And I don't mean that you can't be proud of someone. That's something entirely different. The feeling of being proud of someone is an expression of delight in the act of being pleased with someone. God spoke after Jesus' baptism that this was his son whom he was well pleased. He wanted everyone to know it. The kind of pride that Paul is referring to is the kind that makes you the little god of your life. It's the kind that puffs up the ego and is hard to please but easy to hurt. See, the thing is that we're to want God's will for our child, not our own personal interests on who we think that they should be. Parenting out of pride can look like not apologizing to your children when you've made a mistake, not allowing for their mistakes and withholding grace when they're not perfect, controlling every decision and not allowing them to make choices, wearing their achievements as your badge of honor. And if they're not achieving the way that we want them to, we pressure them to do what we think that they should. Love is not rude in behavior or words. Looking at our phone when our kid is talking or wanting to show us something, mocking them, ignoring the things that are important to them, yelling. I told you, that's something I struggle with. Love does not demand its own way. The reality about parenting is that these kids are not ours, they're God's. And hello everyone, are we paying attention? Oh, that really scared me. So we get the chance and the opportunity to steward the gifts that they are. And our way is not always going to be the best way. And we need to give our children choices to learn so that they can learn to be who that God designed them to be. See, when we demand our own way, what it's doing is that it's communicating that we don't value their thoughts or their wishes or their emotions. Love is not irritable, quick to anger, easily annoyed. So just the other day, I was in my room doing homework, and all my children left to do something or another. This was just last Sunday, so we did church. I went in my room, I'm doing homework. So I'm reading this textbook, and my eyes are feeling heavy, and I'm very tired. And my kids come home with some of their friends, and they come in like a whirlwind, and they run up the stairs, and then they proceed to jump on my ceiling. And I just was thinking, like, what on earth? So I come out, and I asked my husband, I was like, what are they doing? He said, they're being teenagers. That was just the kick in the gut that I needed to help me calm my nerves, because they weren't doing anything that they weren't already doing before they had left the house. I was the one with the problem. They were just continuing on, enjoying their day together. Love keeps no records of wrongs. It doesn't throw something back in someone else's face that we've said we've already forgiven them for. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't tally up all of the wrongdoings. Love forgives. It moves forward without looking back. See, we want to be forgiven, right? When we ask for forgiveness, our kids want the same thing. It's no different. Love does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Another translation says, love joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. As parents, we're not to be happy when our kid does something wrong at the expense of another. It's like when Peter cut off the ear of that soldier who came to arrest Jesus. Yes, it was bad that the soldier was coming to wrongfully arrest him, but Jesus didn't say, hey, thanks, Pete, for having my back. Right? Instead, he was moved with compassion, and he looked at this man whose ear was probably just laying there on the ground and picked it up and healed him. See, love requires us to carry a posture not of they had it coming, but instead to seek what is right. Love never gives up. It doesn't throw in the towel when the going gets tough. It chooses to stick around even through the hard times, even when it feels like they don't need us anymore, even when there's other things that we would rather do. Love never gives up on the people that matter most to us. Love never loses faith. Love requires us to trust and keep confidence in our children. We believe in who they are, in their abilities, and that doesn't waver. Love is always hopeful. We see potential in our children and call it out and show our confidence in them. I'm not saying that we don't address the things and correct as needed, because like I said, they're children, they gotta be taught, but a positive attitude can go a very long way in a kid's life. And last, love requires us to endure through every circumstance. And I'm talking small things like going to the movie that they're obsessed with and you have absolutely zero desire to go see, to when they get a diagnosis and we don't know how to handle it because we never thought that our children would be anything other than quote unquote normal. To love is to endure with them through everything that comes your way. So, to lay this all out, what love requires of us, it requires us not to rely on our feelings, but to put actions into love. And we do this by choosing kindness, graciousness, humility, giving choices and listening to the other's perspectives, being slow to anger and wiping the slate clean after every misstep. We love by teaching honesty and condoning behavior that reflects Jesus' character. When we choose to love, we are choosing to stay through every circumstance, always believing and seeing the best in others. And love perseveres through the good times and the bad. All this to say, though, there is an understanding that we do live in the real world, and this is definitely an ideal. And I don't know about you, but I am definitely not loving all of the time, right? I have let my ego drive decisions. I have kept score when people have hurt me. I've thought more than once, if I'm being completely honest, about running away when things get hard. We're not perfect, but if we are modeling our lives to reflect the character of God, this is the goal. So, a question I propose to you and to myself is what we are valuing reflecting love? If I value obedience and my children are being defiant, am I quick to anger? What does love require of me and my response to be? If it's not anger, if I value respect and my children are disrespecting me, what is my response? Are my words kind? Or are they disrespecting my wishes because I'm demanding my own way? What is my part to play in this? If I value achievement, and what kind of pride do I feel when my children hit the goals that I set for them? Am I proud because they genuinely did a good job? Or am I gaining an ego boost because my kid nailed the solo? Or on the flip side of that, what if I'm valuing achievement and they don't hit any goals at all? It seems like they have no motivation. Then what? How do I feel? How do I react? If I value athleticism, and it turns out that my kid would rather read a book than play basketball, what is my reaction? If they want to quit the team that I've sacrificed so much of my time for, am I humble? If not, the question is it about them or is it about me? Does what we value in our lives get in the way of loving well? So as we come up into the trials of parenting, what if we approached each situation as it comes, not with how do I feel about this, but rather, what does love require of me? In each situation, what if we asked ourselves, how does love apply here? Since we see that love is a choice and not just a feeling. So I'll tell you that in my 17 years of parenting, I have definitely had some parenting wins, but I've definitely had some parenting fails where I've looked back on it and cried because I wish I would have done it differently, but I can't. So I'll share a time of a win. My children were fighting. Pretty sure it was Gwenny and Gunnar. And having read all things parenting because I just really wanted to get this right, I read something that struck me, and it said, let your kids fight. They're going to need to learn how to deal with conflict in the real world, so let them practice in a place that is safe and where they are loved. And it went on to say that we typically step in because we can't stand the sound of it. So it really is more about us than it is about them. This made me feel immediately convicted. And the very next time they argued, I let them duke it out. Just kidding. But I did listen on the side to make sure that if they did get to physical fighting, that I would intervene. And finally, they couldn't finish their battle anymore. So they come to me and they're like, Mom, he did this. Mom, she did that. And I paused because there was more of this, back and forth. And I waited for my moment to speak. And I told them that they had fought for long enough, that now they needed to hold hands and look at each other in the eyes. They had forgotten that they were friends and that they loved each other. So after they stared face to face up at each other for what seemed like, I'm sure for them, a very uncomfortable long amount of time, and the glaring had stopped and it felt peaceful, I told them that I wanted them to think about 5 things that they loved about the other person. And then they had to say it out loud. So they didn't like that. They laughed awkwardly. And then it started with, I love your curly hair, to, I love the way that you make me laugh. Once done with the 5 things, the back and the forth, I told them that we are family. And yes, sometimes family means that those are the people that drive us the most crazy, but those are also the people that God gave us to love the most. So, when they ran off and they played for hours with 0 fighting. I gave myself a pat on the back, right? Like I had won. I paused. I waited for a moment to respond. I didn't react out of emotion because I don't know about you, but fighting makes my blood pressure boil, and I feel like it's going to drive me up a wall. And then I asked what love required in that moment. Now, the kids will tell you they hate this practice. It is definitely not one of their favorites, but I've seen it work. It shifts the focus off of what we don't like about somebody and onto what we love, and that is a game changer. So, I've also had parenting fails, though, and I have videos to prove it. One that sticks out to me is when Gavin was about 7 or 8, and he was outside, and he was, love you, he was outside, and he was crying turned into wailing, and then wailing turned into screaming, and then he wailed some more. So my blood pressure couldn't take it, and I was angry and I was irritable that he seemed to be crying over what felt like nothing. So what I did is I proceeded to get out my phone and video it to send to his mom and his aunt. In a moment where I should have asked what was going on and been curious about his state, instead I judged it. And then I poured shame on it by filming it and sending it. And I'm sorry, Gavin. So, if I did have that lens of what love is requiring of me, I would have handled it differently. I would have taken a few deep breaths, and then I would have gone outside, and I would have hugged him and asked what was wrong. I would have been patient and kind, rather than irritable and demanding of him to behave in a way that I thought that he should. And I'm sure as I talk, you can think of moments in your parenting life where you've had some wins and some losses. The gift of hindsight or maybe maturity. And maybe you would have dealt with that situation differently. Like I said, I know I would have. Well, what if you adopted the lens of love for your life, rather than see the world through your values? What if you asked what love required of you in that moment, in each interaction? Would it cause you to maybe put down the phone when your child wants to tell you something or show you something? If you're fighting with someone, would you maybe think about 5 things that you love about them before you respond to them? Would it cause you to go outside and shoot the hoops with the kids asking you to, even though you know you have chores that need to be done? If we did change the way that we look at situations to put love first, it would go beyond just our parenting, but to every interaction with the people around us. With a filter that asks what love requires, we would be more kind and patient, honoring, forgiving, humble, gracious. With the filter of love, we would echo back the heart of our Father who sent his Son here to show us exactly what love looks like to the people around us. Let's pray. Father, we thank you. We thank you for who you are. We thank you for the way that you love us so deeply, so moving that you sent your Son here to be the model of who we are striving to be. Father, I pray that this week we walk out of here looking at each situation a little bit differently. I pray that we look at it through your eyes, through this filter of love that changes our perceptions and puts our values on the back burner for the moment of choosing love first. Father, we thank you and we love you for all that you are and for all that you're doing in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.